This is Pete Moore. I'm on Halo Talks NYC on location in San Diego with old friends of mine from Atlanta, Georgia. Workout Anytime. I've got Steve, John, and Mark, the owners of Workout Anytime, and we're going to talk about the growth of the company since 1999. So, Steve, why don't you kick off and just give us a little bit of background on the genesis of how this started, and then we'll fast forward through the conversation on where you guys are today.
Well, like I said earlier, we started in 1999 with a single facility in Douglasville, Georgia. Actually, it was only 3,200 square feet. It was a conversion from a ladies' club that she closed in the middle of the night, and the landlord that we had earlier helped negotiate the space for our ladies' club called John and said, look, I've got a vacant space. You guys said you're interested in getting back in the business. And we met with him over coffee at a Waffle House, and John had prepared what I call the first official LOI, a real estate document for the company on a cocktail napkin.
Nice.
With our terms. Nice. And they were quite demanding, and he basically said yes, and just like that, we're in business. And that's where Workout Anytime was born.
Gotcha. So you took over this location. What was the? So you went to Waffle House thinking that you were going to take over one club and kind of see where it went, or what was the?
We were going to hear what he has to say. Right. Like I said, John makes some pretty demanding terms on the real estate offer. We had to convert a ladies' club to a co-ed club. But we already had our model in mind. We had our name. We knew what we wanted to do.
Gotcha. Okay.
We wanted to do a 24-hour key club concept. And, he rapidly took our offer, and we felt like maybe we left a little money on the table. But
at a Waffle House, it's kind of hard to do anyway.
Well, it was, and literally on a cocktail napkin. I'd like to have that document.
Yeah, that would be good for frame.
But he was a good friend of our company early on, and we said yes, and we took the aerobic room, converted it to a free weight room. We took the child care room, converted it to a men's locker room, put our cardio, our strength in, our model, our 24/7 model, and we started out. And we felt like we would be successful, but we didn't plan on the success that we had early on. I mean, that club, and John, you can jump in and help me here, we had over $800,000 in receivables after the first 10 months. And we were surrounded by competition.
Wow.
So we took the 24-hour concept, packaged a $24 a month membership for 24 months, and it worked. It worked,
And were you guys actually inside the club, operating the club every day?
John was. John,
welcome to the show and to the front desk.
Well, let's put it this way. Yeah, when you get up and drive from Dunwoody, Georgia to Douglasville at 5:30 in the morning, and you have one other employee that shows up at 9, and of course you work till 8.
Yep.
That's sort of what an entrepreneur does.
So you got to learn the business from the ground up, right?
I remember the one girl that we had selling, she took off on the Sunday. Of course, we were working 7 days, so she took off on Sunday, and I wrote $3,000 worth of business, and she missed out on about 15 commissions, so she never took Sunday off again.
It's the negative controls of a business, right? If you're not there, you can't get paid.
Hey, it's a little old school way of doing things, right?
Was there a special that you run on Sundays, or? I'm just kidding.
No. The interesting thing was that, the thing started on a napkin, but, we had my brother was doing the construction. We didn't have a construction outfit, so we were like piecing everything together. Advertising materials, Mark would cringe because they were done, on a piece of paper on a computer to make a sign. So it was a lot of fun, though. It was a lot of fun.
Well, I think people need to appreciate that when you start a brand and you start a business and you just have the goal of making that one location successful, that really is, the recipe for doing a franchise. You can't really say I'm going to do a franchise and then figure out what that franchise is going to be. So, and Mark, when did you join up? A couple of years ago, you joined the team here?
Yeah, I joined in July of 15. Steve and I go back a long way. He and I worked together back in the 80s when I was running the marketing for Bally's. And we struck up a friendship, stayed in touch throughout the years. I kind of took a different path. I went corporate and ended up running marketing and eventually running business units for public companies. And Steve and I would stay in touch, and he was telling me about this concept. He said, look, we're not there yet, but trust me, at some point I'm going to come back and we're going to talk. And that discussion took place at the Athletic Business Show about 3 years ago. He said, look, I got this thing to a point where I'm going to need some senior leadership, and are you interested? And my wife and I were looking for our next kind of challenge in California.
Adventure, right?
Adventure. Probably a better way to put it.
Adventure.
And the kids are out of the house, and I thought, if we're going to do it, we need to do it now. So we did what I thought I would never do. I moved from California to Atlanta. Packed up, came out. Steve and John, the way they outlined the opportunity here was just tremendous, and we hit the ground running, and we've been having fun, three of us since.
That's great. So let's talk about the location. Goes well in Douglasville, and what happened after that.
When we started the first club, we had no idea that we would be franchising one day.
Right.
Hell, I couldn't even spell franchise, let alone start a franchise company. But one club led to two led to three.
That you were doing corporate owned at that point?
Yeah.
Yep.
We opened, I think it was 8 clubs. They were all highly successful. And, we woke up one day and figured, we had something we thought was special. I did a little research on franchising, and I understood that you had to have 3 things. You had to have something that was unique in nature, something that was duplicatable, and something with a proven track record. We had that. And so we started Workout Anytime franchising systems in 2005, sold our first franchise in 2006, which was a huge win. It takes us one for you to realize that maybe I can do this.
Sure. And it's a big financial commitment to put together franchising documents, the audit, and everything else, right?
Well, I had a friend, and he's still a friend, an attorney, and gave him a little piece of the company to do the franchise documents, and
Gotcha.
he helped us get started. And we recruited a franchise professional that sold approximately 200 Quizno franchises, a fellow named Randy Trotter, who's still with us today.
Yep, sure.
And that's how John and I we started. Randy likes to say early on we kissed a lot of frogs on our way to finding
the franchises. Yeah.
Oh yeah, we went through a few.
So when you look back at after the first location, in the first location when you really dig in there, that's going to work because of your personal passion and commitment, and being in the club 7 days a week. And then did you find the other opportunities that you started doing on a corporate basis? Did you do those based on, that it was a similar economics, similar type of, retail spot? What were some of the things that piqued your interest? Say, like, this is going to work here?
Well, we did everything consistently across the board back then. All the clubs the model evolved. It got a little better as we opened, clubs 3, 4, and 5. And when we got to club 5, the model had pretty well rounded itself into the place we wanted it to be. And all the clubs started to look alike, and they were started to be equipped alike. And I think that was, one of the early, openings for us to consider franchising as well. And John was running the day-to-day. And we did everything, I think, by the book. We've been doing this for, almost 40 plus years. So it wasn't like we were new to the industry.
Sure.
Well, one of the fun things was that we would come to trade shows like this, and we would talk to, at that time, giants in the industry, and they said you couldn't make any money with that size of club. So we just did it anyway.
Right. So as you started doing franchising, obviously now you're getting up every day and you're working to make sure somebody else is successful. And you did kiss a lot of frogs. I'm assuming we're still allowed to use that term, right? I mean, there's a lot of things we can and can't say, but
probably not.
We should be able to kiss some frogs. Like, it's just,
You probably can't say you French kiss
it's not
a frog.
offending anyone, is it? I hope not. If not, why don't you delete the podcast network, because it's how I talk.
Well, if being successful, if offending people meant success, we would be here today. We were pretty good at that back in the day.
But when you started to look at the franchise model and decided to basically say, look, I'm going to be responsible for other people's success. And you say, look, I've proven this because I've got years in the industry and years in understanding multi-unit. And I've proven it myself, not just one time, in Douglasville, but I've proved it several times over now. What kind of skill set did you need to bring in? How did it kind of change the way you approached every day? Or did you say, you know what, someone's just going to come in and basically run my playbook, and I'm going to keep optimizing my own playbook?
Yeah. Honest to God, we did it on the fly. We really didn't have a set plan. It was we got up every day. We somewhat shot from the hip, and we chased leads, organic leads. And I quoted often as saying, we built the company one brick at a time.
Yep.
And we made a lot of mistakes on the way. We learned a lot, and we just kept our nose down and just really determined to make this work. We had a downtime in 2009. We had a little spurt there at the beginning. 2009, the economy was down. We sold one franchise, opened one club that year, and that's the closest I came to saying, what the hell am I thinking here?
Gotcha.
And just stuck with it, believed in it. We knew we had something that was real and something that was special. And 2010, we opened our first club outside of Atlanta, and things started to grow again. And
Gotcha.
we've never looked back.
And Mark, just giving your background on some of the public companies that you've worked for and some of the brands, your involvement in the business over the last several years, what's in front of John and Steve here, tell us what have you optimized and what have you been focused on?
Well, certainly we'd never want to lose the entrepreneurial spirit that Steve and John have created, and we don't. I think that's one of the keys to our success. At the same time, it took about 15 years to go from one club to 50. We went from 50 to 100 in 2 years. We'll probably go from 100 to 200 in another 2 years. So the momentum is certainly accelerating. When you get to a network and organization that's that large, you have to implement systems and procedures. And my goal was to get us to look like a public company. Even though we want to maintain that entrepreneurial spirit, if we can set ourselves up with the right financial rigor, the right systems and procedures that you need to run a 200-plus network of health clubs, then we can start to really grow. And really that's been my role here, is to try and take the vision that John and Steve have, keep that spirit, but do it under the context of something that is set to scale. And we've been doing that. We're at 160 clubs now. We got another 30 that are in some phase of pre-opening. We've got another 70 in the queue. We know from some studies that we've done in just a number of states that there's a market of near 1,000 locations for us. We don't really want to be the biggest. We've got some great organizations in this industry that are large and certainly tremendous competitors. Our goal is to be the most admired. And we do that by supporting our franchise partners, as you talked about, making sure that they're successful. And frankly, that's been the key to our growth as our franchisees. They're just tremendously passionate people that really care about their members.
So when you look at a franchise lead that comes in, obviously you got some of these larger boxes out there that are running the lower cost play. Seems like you've got the right price point. You're in markets that maybe other people might pass over because they don't think it's big enough, and you've got a nice niche. How do you think about that from if I'm a potential franchisee, where are you encouraging me to go?
Well, typically they want to go where they live, but we like small markets. And it's not just because the bigger brands don't go there. They certainly do, and we wake up every morning expecting that. But when we go into smaller markets, and I'll tell you that the largest clubs in our network are in markets you probably never heard of. As a matter of fact, I tell our development guy, if he brings a deal to us in a market I've never heard of, it's probably a good market for us.
Gotcha.
But we like to take kind of a cheers type of attitude with our clubs and our members. They're all locally owned. They take a tremendous interest in their members, and creating that environment is really what we believe differentiates us from everybody else.
Right. And as you see more and more retail space becoming available from the Amazon effect, do you have an urge to build bigger locations? Do you kind of say, look, this is the size that you need, and don't overextend yourself even though it looks appetizing from a square footage standpoint?
I would say yes if the rent's low enough.
Got it. So it's really based on the unit economics of the model, and if we can, but we're pretty, you're very stringent on making sure that franchisee sets himself up for success and like benchmarks against what other locations are doing.
Well, that's why they buy a franchise, right? They want to tap into the years of experience that all three of us and the team back at Atlanta have.
Sure.
In many cases, they're coming into this industry not from this industry. As a matter of fact, we prefer that because they're not bringing any bad habits with them or things that we have to unlearn. And they rely heavily on us to show them how to do the real estate piece, which we provide, how to do the pre-opening piece, which we provide, and then once they're open, how to optimize their facilities so that they can get to that requisite number of members.
Got it. And are most of the franchisees, this might be a stereotypical question, but are most of the franchisees actually working inside the clubs? Or are they more, business owners having multiple units, or is it kind of across the board?
I think it's across the board. I think we have some that are, some that are not. We like to see owners that are involved and pay attention to their business, and those clubs tend to be more successful. But we got a little bit of both.
And as you see some of the labor laws changing in this country, some of the boutiques that have a very sophisticated model and group exercise, obviously there's a lot going on right now in certain states where if an employee is inside the club, they're technically need to get paid for, just once they walk in the door. So do you view your model as one that, mitigates some of the complexity of being in what we call the halo sector?
Certainly on the membership side, I think the biggest challenge we've had is what those labor laws do to personal training. Remember in the old days, personal trainer would hang around the club and drum up business and work that way. Well, now, they're on the clock if they're hanging around. So if they're not teaching a class or working with a client, they still need to get paid. So the prospecting part of the business has changed quite a bit. And it's just, we're still doing it successfully. It just, changes the way we set things up and the way in which we have to compensate our trainers.
It has definitely done that. The one thing that we require all of our franchisees to do is engage with an HR company. We have a preferred company called HR Strategies, and we want to stay in alignment with the labor laws. We might not necessarily agree with them, and they like Mark said, they have held us back a little bit in the PT area, but we don't challenge those.
Right. So for people, obviously, they're going to look on the site. You can look at an FTD, but just talk about what's going on inside the four walls of the club from a service offering.
Again, one of the benefits of this model is there's not a lot of moving parts, really. You've got probably 5 to 6 people that you need to run it if you're running a full PT organization. So you don't have a lot of high-priced labor. You don't have a lot of, certainly no inventory, obviously, because we don't do that. ABC Financial handles our our payment processing and door controls, so we're able to manage throughput based on if the member is current with their dues. We're looking more, as I think a lot of people in our space are, at the non-dues opportunity, because when you're a low-price provider like we are, there's going to be a limit to which you can generate revenue based on a $19, $29, $39 membership. So if we can edge up some of the non-dues opportunities and get that average revenue per member up over $25, $30, the economics get really exciting because you're talking about a relatively modified rent number, $8,000.
Right.
Labor is controllable. You've got an equipment payment, and after that, there's really not a lot of expenditure. So, if we can, optimize around 2,000 members, and we can get that non-dues revenue up, you get to that leverage point where you're really putting a lot of money at the bottom line for a franchise partner.
That's great. In a lot of franchise organizations, you don't. Once the company gets to a certain size, you don't get to interact with the founders. You get a franchise sales, and then you get to account exec, and then you get to a launch. It seems like you guys are all have your hands in the business and fully committed to each new franchisee. Talk a little bit about what kind of support staff and what kind of operating executives you brought in. I know some of them personally that have been in the industry. So how's that grown since the last time we connected down in Atlanta?
Well, last time you were in Atlanta, we were working out of the back seat of our car.
I appreciate you moving the computer over so we could go to the steak place at the time. That was fun, though.
No, we've come a long way. Like any entrepreneur, we started on humble means, and ran part of the company from the basement of my house, and we took some square footage from the back of an existing club, and I think we had 2 full-time people. Now we have a staff of almost 20.
Yeah,
and they're all just top-notch professionals and people. I think right now that's the strength of our company, is the support staff, that Mark leads every day. So I'm looking forward to you coming to Atlanta and taking a look up close and personal.
That sounds great. Yeah, we're going to do that. The one thing I wanted to leave people with here, if they're thinking about going out on their own, or if they're thinking about starting up a business and become a franchisee, don't ask the question of how much does this cost. Think about there's at least $1 million worth of overhead, and I'm basically charging you, 5%. You get a full, $1 million worth of people that are waking up every day trying to help you succeed, and people that are running a similar type of business. So you're basically contributing to the centralized, operations. You're not. Don't try and jam me on like what my royalty is. Like I hired all these people in Atlanta to actually make you better.
Well, I like to say, the beauty of a franchise system is real simple. If you succeed, we succeed.
Right. And
we really buy into that. Let me assure you, we earn our royalties.
Sure.
100%. And we go out of our way to make sure we do everything in our power to make sure our franchisees are successful. That's our main goal.
I think that the big issue here is that we like to say that when you join up with us, you're in business for yourself and not by yourself, and that kind of triggers the entrepreneurial spirit. But this interdependence on one another, and there's really no other industry where objectives are as closely aligned as ours. As Steve says, if they do well, do we do well? But at the same time, we're spending in excess of 6 figures of marketing materials and support that they get for nothing as part of the royalty. They're getting, combined experience in the operations and sports side of probably another 100 years, in addition to the guys here. So they're getting that, and you're right. It's a very meaningful way for them to grow the business, but not have to make those investments.
That's great.
No, I think it's important to add, someone that's looking to go into a business for themselves, maybe buy a franchise from us or anyone else for that matter, is they have to understand going in that to be successful, they have to make sacrifices in all areas of their lives. And at the end of the day, they also need to understand that they're the last ones to get paid. Leaders eat last, and if they don't understand that going in, this is not for them.
Right. Yeah, I pay payroll. I don't take payroll.
Right, that's right.
Exactly.
Anyway, well, guys, congrats on the success. I look forward to reconnecting and touring the clubs. I'm glad everyone in our audience here knows about what you built now, and we'll look at this as a business opportunity, and also, if there's vendors and there's other groups that think they can help, continue to proliferate what you guys are doing and get people healthy in all different cities, whether we know their name of the city or not, the better. So thanks for being on.
We appreciate it. We're extremely proud of our organization and what we've accomplished so far.
That's great.
We're just getting started.
We're just getting started with it.
That's good to hear. All right, guys. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thanks.